And these are some beautiful sugar woods here.
Well, thank you.
Let's go for a hike. It's snowing out, but it's not too deep yet. It's not too cold out. It's springtime in Vermont. We can taste the clear water that's flowing through the sugar woods. The sugar woods, where the sugar maple grows and gives up its sweet liquid. If our tootsies do get cold, well, we'll just step inside by the roaring fire, where the cauldron is being stirred to make the sauce for pizza. American flatbread, sauced with generous portions of pure Vermont maple syrup. An all-natural pizza made with ingredients grown locally, especially the syrup from the maple trees nearby. Vermont's Mad River Valley, home of American flatbread. That's up next on Chefs Afield.
There's something magical and special about cooking with fire.
You could do this by machine. Big companies do. But George Schenk learned from his grandmother that good food comes from the heart and is done with the hands. For him, the only way to make a pizza is to bake it in an oven that is made of stone, created in the method of the ancients.
The food tastes different out of an oven like this. There's no doubt about it. It's affected by the subtle smokes of the wood.
George's oven is made from soapstone found here in the Mad River Valley of Vermont. The town is Waitsfield, and the other occupation around here is skiing. They wait in line for the slopes, and they wait for the pizza, too.
Pizza is one of the many kinds of flatbreads in the world. And one of the things I liked about it, besides enjoying the flavors of it, is that it's a wonderful way to deliver nutrition and value to people.
To obtain maple syrup to enliven the pizza sauce, George goes to the nearby woods of a longtime friend, Eastman Long. And here they are, farmer and chef, taking on the snow and the cold to be among the sturdy maples. When Easty Long was a very small boy, perhaps 3 years old, he was out in these woods with his father and grandfather. And the most productive of today's trees were merely saplings themselves.
Well, Easty, it's a beautiful day to be out here tapping.
Yes, it is. The temperature's nice.
And these are some beautiful sugar woods here.
Well, thank you.
Now, you're going to tap this tree. What are we looking for when you're going to tap a tree? You got a certain size or a certain age?
Yes, they have to be at least 40 years old. This one is probably at least 50 or 60. And we're actually looking for a good spot on the tree away from the open holes.
So you got holes from years before that you're trying to avoid.
Right, yes.
And about how long does it take those holes to heal on a healthy tree?
Well, generally around 2 years in the woods, and if they're extremely healthy, in a small tree might heal up in 1 year. There's a good spot right here we can tap, so
okay.
I'll start to tap her up and
I noticed that when you put the tapper in, that you don't go in exactly perpendicularly, that you go in on a little bit of an angle.
Right.
Is that so that the sap will run out?
Yes, that's correct. So it'll flow out of the tree real easy. So we'll find the drop here, and we want to make sure that we try to have the lines running downhill all the time, and we like to make little tiny taps so that we hear the sound change, and that means that it's seeded. We don't want to hit it very hard or we could split the tree.
This tubing system that you have, how long have you been using the tubes?
Well, I've been doing it for about 20 years now. Pretty much as soon as it came out on the market.
Yeah, and boy, it saves a lot of work from lugging the sap out of the woods by hand.
I can do more of the work myself. You see, if you have, back in the olden days when we had all buckets, you'd have to hire 10 or 15 people to gather the trees.
Right.
And you can gather the trees every day that sap runs, because it automatically runs to the sugar house. So,
right, so it saves you that way.
So the sap is much fresher, and so you can make a better grade of syrup.
Is this subject to any kind of damage during the course of the year?
Oh, we have all kinds of damage. We have the squirrels chew holes in it, and we have bear problems. They come along. We also have coyotes, and now and then a moose walks through and just tears it down.
So how often do you have to do this? How many taps do you put out in the spring?
I put out 6,000.
And about how long does that take?
There were 3 of us tapping, and it took us 3 weeks. We started the middle of February, and we didn't get done until the end of the first week in March.
So you want to tap before the first run so that you don't miss a run?
Right, but still we can't tap when it's too cold. Otherwise we'll crack the tree when we tap the spout in. So we like it to be at least 20 degrees.
The roots of the maple tree draw water from the soil and push it up into the trunk. When the temperature is right, the sap is moving through the trunk at 1 to 4 feet an hour on its way toward the buds that will turn into leaves.
And that the tree is able to produce about 4 or 5 or 6 times as much sugar as it actually needs to refoliate the following spring. So it's got this great reserve and we're tapping in and taking a little bit of it in a sustainable way.
Actually, it's the sun in the summertime that's producing the sugar.
Right,
and
through the photosynthesis.
Right.
Yeah. When you talk about managing the woods and keeping things clear and cutting out trees and then tapping and maintaining the lines, and then you got to boil the syrup, is there any money in this? Any profit in this at all?
Sometimes I wonder. It's really almost like a miracle to think that you can get something that tastes that good out of a piece of wood.
And I think that one of the things that's unique is that this is arguably one of the best places in the world to make maple syrup. Although there are other parts of the country that have sugar maple trees, here in Vermont there's something either about the soils or the trees or something that seems to bring it to its absolute highest form.
I'm a firm believer that it's the minerals in the ground that make the flavor of the syrup, because Vermont is known, we're the idol of the world for maple syrup. Everybody compares their syrup with Vermont.
Right.
Nature writes the work schedule around here. The day must be warm, not too warm, mind you, for the sap to flow. Then it must freeze at night or in a day or two, lest the tree grow tired and quit running. Gravity, assisted by vacuum pumps, takes the watery sap from the tap to the cooking shack and holding tanks scattered among the hills.
Well, we had some. It's been pretty cold today, so it hasn't run as much as it would on a warm day, but we've got enough to be pumping it.
Well, I guess any day that you get some is a good day.
Yes. It's this year hasn't been quite as good as some years, and so we're doing pretty good compared with other sugar makers that I've been talking to, so I'm thankful. So Tony, we might as well get the pump.
The young man here is Tony Long, one of Eastie's sons. Tony is in the 4th generation of Longs to work in these woods. As it emerges from the pipe, the sap looks like water. Mostly it is, about 90%. It takes at least 42 gallons of sap to make a gallon of Vermont's famous maple syrup. A good day here makes for a good year all around. Nature's abundance from a block of wood.
And you notice we don't race to drop.
Sap can spoil faster than milk. If the sap runs 24 hours, then the work at this cooker goes all night too.
This is a pretty big rig.
Yes.
So easy, you just fired up the evaporator. We're going to boil off that sap we just gathered?
Yes, yeah.
So about how long will this take before it comes up to a boil?
Oh, it'll only take 3 or 4 minutes.
How long before the syrup is coming off?
20 minutes to a half hour. We make about 30 gallons an hour.
30 gallons an hour, it's fantastic.
Yeah.
The process is as simple as it is old. Boil, boil, and boil until the water turns to vapor.
So it's starting to boil already in this second division here.
Oh yeah, yeah, there it comes. I noticed that the evaporator is broken up into the series of pans. What's the idea here?
Well, that's to keep it separated so that you can draw off the syrup. Otherwise, the syrup would mix. You know, it'd be like one big pan. But
So the most concentrated sap, or the stuff that's closest to syrup, is here in this last pan?
this last division.
And does the sap kind of snake through?
Yes,
and
it
as
does.
it comes through, it's getting stronger and stronger,
right,
more concentrated.
Because it's evaporating all the time.
You run it thin so that you can boil it off rapidly, because the faster
Right.
you boil it off, the cleaner or the lighter the syrup.
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah, yeah. Because I know that when I tried making maple syrup at home once in a big pot, you end up with black
syrup.
strap.
Right, yep.
When the sap concentrates, it thickens and begins to ribbon. Each sugarer has his own characteristics. He watches to see how thick, how rich, how dark. You can already begin to smell the richness. The air is sweet to the taste.
Boy, this is going to be beautiful syrup.
See, it's starting to apron now. See, when it's syrup, it will apron or sheath. See how it sheaths across there?
So Easty, can we have a little taste of this?
Sure.
See how good it really is. Oh, it's going to be fabulous.
There we
Of
go.
course, I guess I got to watch my tongue.
Right. Yes, it's hot, so you have to be careful. You can burn yourself.
Oh, wow. There's something about it when it's absolutely fresh.
It always tastes better fresh.
Always
Yes, it's
very,
like
very
anything,
does.
fresh vegetables or fresh anything. It has a delicious flavor.
That was raw sap in the tree this morning.
Yes.
And now we've got some delicious syrup.
Right.
Well, thanks, Easty. This has
You're
been great.
welcome.
And
My
thanks for
pleasure.
making syrup every year.
In the same manner that Easty waits for the sap to rise, so the patrons at American Flatbread wait for the pizza to bake. There's a lot more here than food. There is honesty, integrity in the ingredients, in the preparations, in the attitude toward the customer and the process. Tradition weighs in heavily. The big iron pot from a century ago, the hand-built stone stove quarried locally. The ingredients, organic of course, grown nearby. Farmers encouraged and supported. The land taken care of. They're all here together, a community.
We're getting the cauldron up to temperature. The wood is finely split, which gives us better control out of the fire. This is something that I learned from my grandmother, who cooked in a wood-fired cook stove her entire life up in the northern part of the state. Whoa! That's a little too hot. Here we go. All right. The great mass of the cauldron retains an enormous amount of heat. They're able to caramelize the onions rapidly, which improves the quality of the flavors. The next is the organic carrots. And we're gonna just put those in and do the same thing. Just give them a little stir. They're gonna cook in here for just 3 or 4 minutes. What we're doing is making a tomato sauce in very much the same way that you might make a chicken soup. We don't put the chicken in, of course, but we put in onions and carrots and celery and herbs. And the idea is that these good vegetables, then their flavors go into the tomato stock and the nutrients also go in. So the next item is a celery. We're making really a classic mirepoix. I'm not going to put in the organic garlic. This has been hand peeled and freshly grated, and it is fabulous. One of the things that you find about pre-grated or commercial garlics is that they get rancid. The garlic doesn't like the air. And we experimented with pre-processed garlic because of the labor saving, but we found that the flavor just was nowhere near as interesting or compelling. What our work is really an experiment of pushing the quality of flavors and the integrity of the ingredients. We accept the work that requires. The next steps is that we're going to put in the herbs. We've got a mixture of dried herbs here with bay and thyme and hot pepper flakes and basil and oregano, and we also have some fresh organic parsley. I like giving the herbs just a little bit of dry heat like this. It's kind of wakes them up again. Then we give it a little bit of wine. What we're going to do is take those flavors off of the bottom of the cauldron, and we're ready for the tomato sauce. These are the crushed organic tomatoes. When we get this filled up and cooked down, we're going to end up with between 50 and 55 gallons of tomato sauce. It turns out the feelings that you get on doing something like this is a feeling of connection, and that connection comes from the physicality of doing it, of actually using your arms and your hands and your shoulders to move the food. So much of our modern food is made by machinery. It's allowed our food to be far less expensive, but it hasn't necessarily made the food better, and it hasn't made the experience of cooking or preparing food richer or better. So a little bit of kosher salt. What we'll do is finish the seasoning with some additional salt if we need to. And the last ingredient is maple syrup, Vermont maple syrup. The maple syrup helps control the acidity of the tomatoes and helps mellow that a little bit. It's not unusual for tomato sauces to have a little bit of sugar in them, and I suppose maple syrup is the Vermont twist on that. One of the things that they've discovered is that maple syrup has trace minerals in it, about 40 minerals in minute quantities, but it's food from trees, which is very unusual in our society to have a raw food that comes from the forest. It's sustainably produced, it supports the canopy of the forest. There are so many good things to say about maple syrup. I'll give it one little last stir, and then this will come up to a simmer, and we'll maintain that simmer for about 3 or 4 hours, and we'll have some wonderful tomato sauce. The idea here was to build an oven that was made out of raw materials. This is raw clay and unprocessed stones, and it reaches back to the very beginnings of how we prepared food. And what's fascinating to me is that with all the advances, especially in the last 100 years in bread baking, almost all of those changes or advances have been about making the bread baking easier, not about making the bread itself actually better. And so this was about reaching back to the most ancient traditions of bread baking to see what kind of bread might come of it. Pizza is a wonderful platform for a whole variety of toppings, and probably the very best toppings that you can put onto a pizza are the toppings that are freshest of the season at that time. The dough, of course, is at the very center of the work. One of the differences in a flatbread dough or in a pizza dough is that it tends to be much softer than a conventional bread dough, and that's really about helping it be more stretchable. So I've stretched it easily like that. Whenever you're making a pizza-like dough, you don't want to handle it too much. You don't have to roll it because it breaks the little bubbles that are in there. I'm going to put down some cornmeal on the peel. The cornmeal acts sort of like natural ball bearings that help the dough slide off of the peel when we go to put it into the oven. And the next item we're going to put on is a little bit of garlic oil. This is a blend of extra virgin olive oil and garlic and a little bit of canola oil. We use a little bit of kosher salt just to balance the seasonings. And I'm going to first use a tomato sauce and sausage. This is the organic tomato sauce that we make in the wood-fired cauldron. And a friend of mine who works here said, trust the circles. Whenever you go around, just keep going, even though you think you'll fail, and it'll be all right. We use a whole milk mozzarella here at Flatbread, and this comes from a dairy up in Swanton, up in the northwestern part of the state, and it has this wonderful nutty flavor. It benefits greatly by the fact that the vast majority of the dairy farms here in Vermont are still relatively small, family-oriented farms. We have our homemade sausage. This is from pork from Hadley Gaylord's pigs, and it's been seasoned with fennel and sage and shallots and garlic and a little bit of maple syrup. It is really delicious. We also put on a few caramelized onions. These are onions that were cooked before into a nice brown sweetness. And then we're going to finish it with a little bit of hard cheese. There are two cheeses in this mix, a Grana Padano from Italy and a cheese from a small farm up in northern Vermont that makes it in the Italian hard cheese style. And then I'm going to finish this off with a little bit of herb mixture, which is fresh parsley, organic parsley, and oregano and marjoram. The oven bakes at between 700 and 800 degrees. The idea here is to flash cook the thin crust. In typical bread baking, loaves of bread, you want to bake at between 350 and 450 degrees. In a pizza-like bread, it is better to bake at a much higher temperature. The idea is to flash cook the thin crust so that the outside is crisp and the inside is soft. So when you bite into it, there's this nice contrast of crunch and chew on the palate. We also roast vegetables in here, and we'll roast fish and joints of meat. Okay, that is ready. So you can see how quickly this has baked off. This one is done. This is our homemade Vermont sausage with organic tomato sauce. It smells wonderful. One of the central ideas of American Flatbread is to make it a sustainable cuisine and to create food that's nurturing, that's comforting, that gives joy, that's healthful, that fills people's hungers, and that in the end nourishes them in ways that are real.